When Donna Edwards took on the role of Louisiana's First Lady, she came with three goals: refining Louisiana's foster care and education system, and creating a mechanism to fight against human trafficking. After 8 years in office, Ms. Edwards has seen her goals become a reality with the Louisiana First Foundation. In this in-depth interview with the First Lady, she reflects on her legacy. Let's rewind to 2016. So you become the First Lady of Louisiana, and there's no training school for this position. It's something that you have to figure out on your own. What was your vision for the role, and did it evolve over the years?
You know, there is no job description for the first spouse, and so the only job requirement is that you have to be married to the governor, and so I fit that job description. I qualified after 34 years of marriage, so it evolved. I knew, well, I don't know that I knew. I started learning about the mansion, and so the first thing I did is I got involved with wanting to repair. There was a lot of things that needed to be updated here. I knew that needed to happen. I invited Alice Foster over, and a group of ladies that had helped her. So we started that process of building up the foundation, or starting a new foundation, because the other one had been laid to rest. So we started the Governor's Mansion Preservation Foundation, started raising money, working with other people, started working with interior designers, raised over $1 million plus to refurbish and preserve this mansion. That's the first thing I did, because that was in front of me. The second thing, as a former music teacher, I wanted to bring awareness that that was something that we needed to keep in our public schools, and all schools, was music, art, and movement. As a former music teacher, having left the classroom in our small town of Amite, they didn't replace me. And so all of those children every year that I had been teaching, and those that I had left, you know, now had no music teacher. It saddened me. And so, we know, studies show that music, art, and movement enhance the other core subjects. That is data, statistics, all of that shows. And so I knew I wanted to bring awareness to the need for us to teach music, art, movement in our schools. So I was going to do something with that. So that's where I started.
That's where you started. And of course, that ended up giving way to that entire movement that you created, which was teacher, music, art movement, which you just mentioned.
Right.
And then also, it was all under that umbrella for the Louisiana First Foundation.
Yes, so I started the foundation, Louisiana First Foundation, and then came the Teach Music Art Movement, Teach Ma'am. I started Teach Ma'am because, as a former military wife, and just in the South, we use ma'am a lot. And so it kind of brings about respect. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, thank you, ma'am. And so Teach Ma'am pretty much says respect the arts. And so that's where that came from.
Yeah, and you were talking a lot about your history as a public music school teacher. Do you think that there was anything else that you learned from that job that you took into this one that kind of prepared you for public service?
I think John Bell and I both value people from all walks of life. And we both walked into this position with that same feeling and wanting to make things better. And, coming from a very small community, a small area in Amite, and having served that community after leaving the military. He was the president of the Kiwanis. I was president of Junior Auxiliary, building up the community that we were in. We both live by the philosophy, leave it better than you find it, right? And so together we built a playground in our community. And so we brought that same mindset here. Him on obviously a larger playground, the state, and here in the Governor's Mansion, and then taking that idea of the Teach Music Art movement, and then loving the children, and then realizing that our Department of Children and Family Services and the children that are there in the foster care program, and then they end up in the states, or in the state's hands, are our children. And so I wanted to be a part of that, and what I could do to support them, to help them, because they needed some love and help, and they need encouragement, because caseworkers are most often like teachers and educators. They oftentimes pull out of their pockets to help the children. So.
Right. And I actually do want to talk a little bit more about the work that you did with Louisiana's foster children. And what's unique about this program is that it linked churches and faith based organizations with these foster groups. So, how else has your faith influenced your work while you were in office?
So we came up with the idea if every church, because we have over 4,000 churches in our state, we have over 4,000 children in foster care at any given time. And so and those kind of go together, right? And so if every church in our state would consider recruiting one family within their church, and that one family go through the foster care program and become a certified foster family, and then the church wrap themselves around that family and that child or those children, can you imagine what that would do for those children in our state and our communities? We would take care of all the children. I mean, we would literally take care of every child in our state. That's huge. And it wouldn't be hard. It's not like we have to have a program. All you have to do is stand up in church and say, who in the congregation is a foster parent? Who in the congregation knows someone's a foster parent? What can we do to help them this week? Can we bring them food? We love food in Louisiana. We can bring them food once a week. Can we offer to support them in after-school programs? Maybe there's a tutoring program. Maybe there's a basketball. We have bitty basketball in our community. Offer to help them with clothing. Maybe they need prom dresses, or maybe there's some school clothes. Offer to help them with tutoring. There's all kinds of things we can do to help, but I encourage the churches to step up and be a part of that. And so that's something I will continue to do even after leaving office.
Well, another aspect of the Louisiana First Foundation was human trafficking.
It is.
And you'd mentioned in other interviews that you didn't know much about human trafficking before taking on the role as First Lady. So, what compelled you to get involved with this?
Well, I didn't, and I'm embarrassed to tell you that I didn't, and I say that quite often. And it's one of those situations that once you do know it, once you hear about it, you can't unhear it. Once you know that it's right here in your own community, which it is, it was in our community, and they meet, you can't walk away from that, and you can't say, I don't want to have a part of that. These are children. The average age of a young girl in our state of Louisiana that is trafficked is 13. And so you have to say, what can I do? How can I help with this situation? And I knew I could possibly leverage this leadership role at some level to be a voice for the voiceless, to help in some way. And what can I do? What could I do? And so I just started reaching out to others, and talking about it, and speaking out about it. And we started working. And through the office, the governor's office of human trafficking awareness, Dr. Dana Hunter, she was able to just really work hard to train law enforcement. We traveled the state, had summits around the state. I've had my own Zoom summits. We've went from 300 people attending to over 600, 800 people from around, not just our state, the country, other countries. Now I've started the National Coalition for the Prevention of Human Sex Trafficking with other for spouses around the country. And I'll continue to do that, spreading the awareness, because it's happening in every state.
Well, 8 years is a lot of time for hindsight. What is the most difficult aspect of being the first spouse?
We've had a lot of trauma, a lot of things happen over these last 8 years. 2016, we had multiple tornadoes that year. We had a shooting here in Baton Rouge. We had officers killed. We had the flood of 2016. I was going to say 100-year flood, and I paused because I think now they're saying it's what, 300, 400-year flood, something even bigger than that, longer than that. But that was just in 1 year. That's a lot. And to watch your husband go through that, and to watch our friends and family members in our state to go through that was hard. And then all the hurricanes that we've had, and COVID, and the drought, and the fires, and salt in the river. It's just been a lot over this last 8 years. And so, but I believe that God put him here for this time, because his military experience really played a huge part in how he governed our state.
And is there anything that you'll miss?
Oh, I'll miss a lot. I'll just miss the people. This has been such a joy, a humbling, and an honor to be here in this governor's mansion. And we have really tried very hard to open it to to remind people that this is the state's home. It always is so much fun when children come to visit. I come down and I welcome them to the governor's mansion and I say, did you know that this is your mansion? And their eyes get really big. They're like, no. Like, yes, this is your mansion. This is the state's home. And so to be able to share this with the people of the state and remind them that this is their home and to take care of it and to leave it better than I found it has been such a wonderful, rewarding experience.
So what's next for you after all of this is over?
I'm going home to be a grandmother. Yes, so I'm very excited about that, and I'm going to take some time to rest, and I'm going to keep working in my foundation and working hard to continue bringing awareness of the need to support foster children, the need to remind people about human trafficking and making. We have some great laws, but continue making our laws tougher and harder, and remind people that if there are no buyers, we wouldn't have this issue. And then also continue talking about the need for music, art, and movement because, we had John Baptiste here the other night. And wow, that should remind us all why there's a need for music, art, and movement in our schools, right?
All right, well, thank you so much. It's
Absolutely.
been a pleasure.